All right, so today I'm going to talk about version 2.0 of Khaazin's Rise. Basically, just enough iterations and a name change and enough little changes that they kind of added together to be enough of a difference from what I started from that I kind of gave it started calling it, version 2.0, gave it a different name and everything. And so I just wanted to describe the things I've changed from version 1 at this point in the process. Basically, the first thing was the name change. I changed it from Delve Deeper to Treasure in the Deep. I felt like Treasure in the Deep was more engaging and more indicative of the game and what you're doing in the game and trying to search after that treasure. So it felt a little bit more exciting and a little bit more engaging. So that's what I started calling it. I changed the tile count in some of the tiers. So for example, in tier 1, I increased the tile count from 6 to 7, mostly so that players had more time to get enough money and earn enough money to be able to afford their upgrades and move on to the next level. I'm just kind of increasing the time spent in tier 1 by increasing the number of tiles. At the same time I did that, I adjusted the final tile tier 4, from 6 tiles to 5, to keep that kind of kept the total number of tiles the same. So in essence, the length of the game didn't really change, but it allowed for more growth earlier in the game. It also increased the chances of triggering the end. Once you get to the bottom, there's only so many tiles there. Taking off one layer was one less layer you might have to dig through at the end, specifically for triggering the end of the game. Along the way, I was constantly adjusting values and costs and just the count of each tile. I didn't really have a super robust system to track all those changes, just some eraser marks to prove that it changed. Anyway, so I can't be too much more detailed, but it was different. Just numbers here, numbers there, playing with it, mostly to deal with the other challenges I was facing, like players not being able to afford a pickaxe to upgrade, and large end of game scoring differences, trying to close that gap so that the scores were a little more consistent. Let's see. Oh yes, I also got rid of the bag upgrades completely, since no one ever used them or ever bought them. That was a pretty clear message that it just isn't used, and it wasn't worth the brain capacity to even worry about a rule for it. So I didn't want to replace it. Since it just wasn't used, I just cut it out. It was obsolete. Didn't want to replace it with something complex, and especially not anything complex and unnecessary. I also added the King's Rule to deal with the monster locking problem where you couldn't continue to progress through the game. Basically, the rule was that if there are 5 or more monsters faced up at the end of someone's turn, the king comes in and clears them out. It basically just stopped the game from ever being fully blocked, while not eliminating monsters from the game. I also added another end condition, so that when 2 stacks were completely empty, the game would be over on the end of someone's turn. This was kind of 2 reasons. Was one, the end of the game became a little more predictable. You could still come across the game-ending monster early in tier 4 at this point, and that could still end the game and trigger the game. But now there was a clear way to end the game so that everyone can kind of see it. You can see it coming. Oh, there's 1 stack empty. Oh, there's only 1 more tile left in this stack. Someone could end it right now if they wanted to. So I think it brought the length of the game down a little bit, just on average, which I think was a good thing. And it also just made it more predictable, which I think, generally speaking, you want the end to be at least somewhat predictable, if not completely predictable. Just general board game, and that's just my personal opinion there. Anyways, with the elimination of the bag upgrades and all the other changes, I just kind of decided the player mat no longer really made sense. There wasn't a bag upgrade and a pickaxe upgrade, and there was nothing really wrong with it, but it just didn't really serve a function. And I figured in the end, from a production standpoint, it'd be easier to just print a player card and a level 1 pickaxe than it would be to get artwork and design and have a separate piece for player mats. Now, player mats can be exciting. Maybe that'll be a cool sell point in the future, but since it functionally wasn't necessary, cut it out. And then also, it's a little cheaper to just throw in 2 more cards of the same size so that you can maximize the amount of cards that you're getting for a specific sheet and that kind of printing there. So that was basically a production kind of decision as opposed to a gameplay decision. But either way, it would work. And player mats, I enjoy playing with a player mat. It can be really cool, but I just didn't think it was necessary. So I just stopped getting them out when I would play and didn't really bother with making new ones. As far as the physical prototype, it pretty much looked exactly like version 1 that I showed in a previous video. I just slowly erased things and changed numbers and kind of made adjustments to version 1. So much so that version 1 doesn't really exist anymore. I don't have a solid prototype. Version 2 is the prototype that I have, and was showing pieces for last one. But those ones were the same from version 1, so you kind of get the idea of what version 1 and 2 looked like as far as a physical, tactile game. So yeah, anyways, that was kind of the state of version 2.0, Treasure in the Deep. I'm super excited to move on to the next round of playtesting. But yeah, so Khaazin's Rise at the time was called Treasure in the Deep.